All right, so now you all have heard a little bit of kind of the big picture. Now you know what's in the RFP itself. And now it's time for us to start getting into the thing you're here for, which is the reading and scoring part. So we're going to go over some ways to get prepared to read and score. Next slide, please. All right, so I think it's helpful just to understand where your part fits into the bigger process here. So the scoring phase, which is the first phase of our decision process, is one of three phases. And so the scoring phase, the purpose there is to score each proposal's quality and responsiveness to the RFP. So that's the part that you'll be doing. The deliberation phase, which will include our DCYF staff and our funding partners, is where we determine the proposal's fundability. And that's where we talk about each proposal, talk about whether it aligns with our strategies, whether we can tell whether it serves the target population, past performance, and fiscal health. And then the last phase is the decision phase. And the purpose there is, as it sounds, to make decisions about which proposals we actually want to fund, to allocate dollars to those proposals, and to do that in order to get to a balanced portfolio that ultimately is going to meet our goals with this RFP. Next slide. Just to break down the scoring phase a little bit more with a few more details here. So all of our scoring happens online in our RFP system. So we're not going to send you a big old stack of proposals, and I'm sure you'll thank us for that. Non-DCYF staff readers are assigned up to 10 proposals each. Sorry, DCYF staff, you read more than that. But for all the non-DCYF staff, we're trying to cap it at 10 proposals. Now, I do want to note that if you have more capacity or ability to read more than 10 proposals, please let us know. It is often the case that we have to do some shuffling around of proposals, and it's always helpful to have a little bit of slack capacity that we can use if needed. And then in terms of what your task is here, readers will score the responses to RFP questions, and they'll provide a funding recommendation. And we'll talk a little bit more about how to do that in just a little bit. Next slide, please. Now, in terms of how we actually match those proposals to our readers, we have our stack of all proposals. And just so you know, we have received 700 proposals by the deadline, so quite a big stack. We take the survey responses that you provided to us. So folks filled out an expertise survey early on when you were signing up in the process. So we take that and we use that expertise to whittle down that stack of proposals to the ones that you have expertise in reading. Then we use these limiting factors, which include things like the number of proposal limit that we have, the 10 proposal limit, as well as any conflicts of interest, which I'll talk about shortly. And then that's how we get to the list of proposals that you will actually read. So, you know, there is a process here to try to make sure that we are leveraging all the expertise that you guys have. And we want to use that throughout this process. Next slide, please. All right, so conflicts of interest, very, very important. So it's important to note that RFP readers cannot be an employee or board member of any applicant. They cannot have an immediate relative that is an employee or board member of any applicant. They cannot communicate with or advise any applicant, and they cannot have any vested interest in the outcome of the RFP process. This is extremely important to us, and that's the reason why we actually asked you, when you filled out your expertise survey, to identify any conflicts of interest that you had. And we use that information, as I said, to assign proposals. But we actually will ask you again, whenever you open up a proposal, there is actually a prompt there that will ask you whether or not you have a conflict with that applicant. And that's really key to us, just to make sure that we have multiple ways to identify any conflicts. And we're going to ask that you be truthful and forthcoming, because the integrity of our RFP process really depends on our ability to prevent having any conflicts of interest. Mitzi will talk about this in just a second, but we're going to ask that you all review your assigned proposals by November 10th and complete the prompts for conflict of interest. That way, if we need to shuffle any proposals around, we have time and the ability to do that. Next slide. All right, so with that, I'm actually going to call up Mitzi Chavez Gallardo, who is a member of our research evaluation and data team, and she's going to talk us through how to use the RFP system.
Thanks, Amiho. Good afternoon, everyone. So as Amiho mentioned, in the next few slides, we'll discuss scoring proposals in the RFP system, including how to access your online RFP reader account and how to submit scores and comments. So let's start with a brief, simple overview of what scoring proposals in the system looks like from start to finish. So as a first step, you're going to be asked to confirm your RFP Reader account. We'll dig into the verification email in the following slide. After confirming your Reader account, you'll access the online RFP Reader system and log in using your confirmed credentials. As a third step, you'll log into the RFP system and review your assigned proposals, as Amiho just mentioned, to identify potential conflicts of interest. Any proposals for which you indicate a conflict of interest will be reassigned to another reader. So we ask to please review proposals and indicate any conflicts of interest as soon as possible, but latest Friday, November 10th. Now, you will complete steps 4 to 8 for each assigned proposal. Through the online RFP system, you will select a proposal to score. You'll confirm no conflict of interest, access relevant documents like the full proposal PDF, then score the applicant's responses, and finally submit your scores. So we'll dig further into these steps in the next few slides. Next slide, please. Okay, great. So let's talk a little bit more about accessing the RFP system, your account, all that good stuff. Before you can access the system, you must confirm your RFP Reader account. So you'll receive an account verification email, which will contain your RFP Reader account username and a link to verify the account and set your password. Now, if you have an existing RFP Reader account, like you've read for DCYF in the past and submitted your scores in the system, you'll be prompted to reset your password following the same account verification link included in the email. So you don't need to worry about resetting it. You'll be prompted to do that. So note that the DCYF RFP Reader Handbook, which will be an additional resource we'll share, will be attached to the reader email as well for your convenience, and you can expect to receive the verification email on November 6th. Okay. Last slide. Yes, thank you. So we did want to note quickly, though, that the verification email will be sent by our vendor. Their name is Cityspan. So just be sure to check your spam or your junk inboxes for an email from do-not-reply@cityspan.com. So again, the verification email will come from our vendor Cityspan. So please be on the lookout for that. Now, once your reader account is confirmed, you're going to log into the RFP Reader system by navigating to contracts.dcyf.org/RFP-reader. I know this is a long URL. You'll receive all this information in the handbook. Next slide, please. Great. So now you've confirmed your reader account, you've accessed the system, and you've logged in. Upon login, you'll arrive at what we call the proposal assignments form, which is pictured here. The proposal assignments form lists agency names in the gray header as pictured, and proposals assigned to you to read will be nested under the submitting agency. So again, your proposal assignments will all be listed here upon login. Now, to the right of the proposal name, that middle column is the DCYF strategy that the proposal was submitted under. And lastly, the third column on the far right will indicate if you have submitted the scoring form for each assigned proposal. To score a proposal and confirm that there is no conflict of interest, you'll need to click on a proposal name. So let's say you clicked on the proposal name. Next slide. Great. So you'll be prompted to indicate whether you have a conflict of interest directly in the system. Once you have selected that you have no conflict, you'll gain access to 3 PDF forms as pictured here, along with the reader rubric, scoring guidelines, and the applicant's responses, which we'll see in an upcoming slide. Note that if you indicate a conflict of interest for a particular proposal, that proposal scoring form will be locked, and you won't have access to the applicant's responses, nor will you be able to edit your conflict of interest response. So if you find yourself in that predicament, please contact DCYF with questions or if you require support. Now, within each proposal scoring form, you can access a copy of the Reader Handbook as well, which I mentioned will be in the verification email, along with DCYF's full RFP document and the applicant's full proposal. And you'll see access to those by clicking on the PDF icons on the right of the proposal scoring form as pictured here. Next slide, please. Thank you. So as mentioned, once you've indicated that you have no conflict of interest, you'll see a reader score summary and the scoring guidelines. The reader score summary tracks the total number of questions, the total points that are earned, and the highest possible points allocated for each question section. Applicants responded to questions across 4 sections. They're pictured here, but I'll read them off. So the 4 sections included our target population need, program overview, program design and implementation, and program impact. The scoring guidelines provide definitions for each type of score. So you'll be asked to rate a question ranging from very poor to excellent. The system will automatically calculate points earned based on your selection. And of course, note that both the scoring guidelines and question section point breakdowns are also described in the RFP Reader Handbook. Now, in the next slide, let's talk more about points earned for a specific section. Great, thank you. So pictured here is an example of the target population section within a proposal scoring form. So you'll see these sections immediately underneath the scoring guidelines. So note that the proposal scoring form has a proposal questions and the applying agency's response immediately under each question prompt. Under the agency's response, you must select a score according to the scoring guidelines. So as you score each response, again, your responses will range from, your scores, will range from very poor to excellent. The system will assign total points earned. And so you can see that in the little green box pictured, the second green box pictured here. So for a score of fair in this example, the system automatically calculated 2.5 points for the first question. And then for the score of good, in the second example, the system allocated 3.3 points. So know that those are automatic. You'll also see possible points earned underneath. Lastly, at the end of each question section, you will be required to provide overall comments regarding responses submitted within that question section. And again, those are required in order for you to submit your full proposal score. Next slide, please. Thank you. At the bottom of each proposal scoring form, so after you've gone through all of the applicants' responses, you will be asked to provide a funding recommendation of yes, indicating that you recommend funding the proposal, yes with reservations, or no, indicating that you recommend against funding the proposal. You'll also be required to provide brief reasoning for your recommendation. And so that's the first picture in this slide. Once all questions are scored, comments are submitted, and a funding recommendation has been entered, please be sure to submit your scores by clicking on the submit icon located on the right of the proposal scoring form. You will be asked to confirm the submission as pictured here, as submitted scores and comments cannot be changed once submitted. So the form for a particular proposal, once you've submitted it, it completely locks, so you won't have access to go back and edit. Now, lastly, but really, really important, please save your work, save as you go. The RFP reader system will log you out after 90 minutes of inactivity, and all unsaved progress will be lost. So you can select to save scores and comments entered for individual proposals and return to the proposal assignments form if you wish to score multiple proposals simultaneously, and that's totally okay. Just make sure you save as you go. So when you go back to a proposal scoring form, your responses, your scores are there. And next up, we're going to hear from Brett Connor, DCYF's grants manager, about reader payments.
Thank you, Mitzi, and hello, everyone. So yes, DCYF recognizes that you're stepping in to be a reader for us is a big commitment, and we are very happy to say we're going to honor that commitment and to demonstrate how much gratitude we have by providing a stipend to certain readers, not every single reader, but as I'll explain, a subset of you will be receiving a $25 stipend for every proposal you score. And just to be sure, that's not what you're assigned, not what you've read, what you actually submit a score for, you'll receive $25 per score. In order to get that stipend, 3 conditions need to be met. You need to be a resident of the United States, easy peasy. You cannot be a city employee, so you cannot be employed by the city and county of San Francisco. And lastly, you must have informed us already that you would like to receive a stipend. Now, you might recall you filled out a survey indicating your interest in being a reader. In that survey, you were asked if you wanted to receive a stipend. So hopefully you said yes. If you said no, you don't quite remember, reach out to us. We'll let you know what you said. But for everyone who all three of these conditions are met, we will be providing that stipend. Next slide, please. Okay, in order for us to process a payment for you, we do have a little bit of paperwork that needs to happen. We are going to be utilizing a W-9 form. This is a standard form for the IRS. Everyone to receive a payment from the city for this stipend needs to complete that form. We are going to be sending you that form electronically. We're going to be sending it to the email you used when you signed up to be a reader. We will be sending out that email this week, and it'll be coming to you from a service called DocuSign. So you'll see an email from DocuSign indicating it is your W-9 form. You'll go in, you'll fill out all the fields, you put an electronic signature in it, and you'll hit submit. That will come back to us, and we'll be able to register that your W-9 is on file, and that at the end of the reading process, we will be able to issue a payment. We would ask that your W-9 forms be submitted on Friday the 1st. No later than Friday the 1st. As you'll soon see, it's a week before proposals are due. Next slide. All right, just a couple sort of last issues in terms of reader payments. One, so you know, payments are going to be performed through our controller's office and a select number of DCYF staff, and only those staff who need to have access to the information contained in your W-9, which we recognize is sensitive, are going to be able to have that information or see your W-9 form at all. We are going to be mailing those payment checks at the end of the reading process. We expect that to occur by the end of this calendar year. We'll be mailing those checks to the address that you list on your W-9 form. And again, we expect that to all be wrapped up before New Year's Day. All right, that's all my slides. Any questions about reader payments, reach out to us. We're happy to answer them. I actually forget who's coming up next. I think it's Amiho. Okay.
Yes, back to me. All right, thank you, Brett. All right, so before we go over a little bit more information, some tips about reading and scoring, we just want to go through a brief timeline. So yes, our proposals closed. We stopped accepting proposals last Friday, and we did receive 700 proposals, big old stack. We will be sending those the proposals that are assigned to you on November 6th. And we, as Mitzi said, we are asking you to review them all by Friday of that week, so November 10th, so you can complete the conflict of interest prompt. Those proposal scores are then due back on December 8th. Let me say that again, 5 p.m. December 8th, your scores are due. We will go into the second the second and third phase of our decision process in January and March, deliberations and decisions, and then we hope to announce awards on March 11th of 2024. So if you're interested in following along, you can always check our website. We will post those results there.